Hey, good morning, and welcome back to Encouragement Through Empowerment through understanding our superpower of ADD, ADHD, and how you can have the capacity and the ability, simple steps of combating the side effects or the symptoms of ADD, ADHD, and how you can actually heal this at home. And it's empowering yourself and also being encouraged to do so. And I am joined again with my guest, Dr. Mendy, and I am so glad that you are back. You're back up on health, and just glad to have you back here. So,
I am so glad to be here. Good morning. Good morning. It is a wonderful day, and I'm super excited about this topic. I think this topic applies to everyone, not just those with ADD, ADHD, but I can't wait to hear about how we're going to incorporate this into our lifestyle. You know, a lot of times in exercise, it can be, or even brain games, whatever, it can be start and then stop. Oh, I'm going to start and then I'm going to stop. But actually just incorporate that into your lifestyle. Can't wait to hear what those things are and how we're going to make that happen. So, super exciting topic for today.
yeah, one of the things about if we take the energy and we harness it, just like we do with the sun, we harness the energy. We harness the energy with lightning. We harness the energy with water. We harness the energy in a combustible vehicle
Yeah.
by channeling the fuel to respond in a certain direction that gives us the ability to move our vehicles. Well, one of our greatest vehicles is this body that we encapsulate. And there's an energy that's going on, and maybe a little bit extra energy inside the mind of someone with ADD, ADHD. Now,
Yep, absolutely.
you
And
know, that's it. Go ahead.
sometimes I'm jealous of that because, I don't have that in my personal life, but I live with that. And sometimes I'm jealous of that extra energy because it really is, like you say, extra energy. We've talked before about demystifying what it is. And I think this is a great way to talk about, like, really demystifying that and talking about how this energy, extra energy, is such a big asset for a lot of people.
It is an asset, and I love the way that you brought that word in, because it's an asset. It's not a liability,
Right. It is.
and it's your superpower. And when I introduce myself and I go and I talk to young kids or I talk to young adults, I say, "Hey, I have two superpowers. One is I have ADD. Number two is coffee needs to drink me because I don't need the caffeine. Okay, so get ready for your cup of Gojo." And my name ain't Joe, but if it were, it would just be more fitting. And I think the idea is that it's an asset.
Yeah.
Now it's a positive. It's not a negative. It's
Yeah.
learning how to channel that. And you know, kids that are hyperactive, they just have an abundance of energy. So why not channel it? Why not, rather than allow it to stress you out and cause frustration, say, what could I do with this?
Yeah.
And exercise for someone with ADD, ADHD is one of the very, very best things. And the kids don't even realize how much their body is saying, I need to move.
Yeah.
Now, what happens is the first 3 years of our life, we're asked to walk and run, and oh, look at Johnny, look at Sally. Oh, they're running and they're playing. And then after 5 years old, we send them to a room and we say, sit down, shut up, and don't say anything.
That's so true.
So
Wow.
we're confusing the kids. So you take somebody with an abundance of energy. Now you've taken them from running and talking and learning to ask questions. And now you're going to tell them to sit down, shut up, and not move.
Yeah.
It's
For
like,
hours on
yeah,
end, literally.
rocket. It's like a rocket on the launch pad and the engines are on. And then somebody says, turn them off.
Oh my gosh. So
Just
true.
can't
That's
do
such
that.
a good analogy. Right. It just doesn't work either. And
Yeah.
that's what we've escalated into all these issues or labels because it just doesn't work and it doesn't make sense and it's not how our bodies have been designed.
Exactly. So if your husband
Hmm.
brought you gifts and chocolates and flowers, good chocolates and flowers, and just lavished on you, would you stop him if that was his energy, if that was the thing that was his catalyst? Would you say, you know what, forget the flowers, I don't want anything, don't do anything, please, it's just too much? No.
No, absolutely not. And he does do that a lot. And it's an asset. It's I would never say no to that because it is such an asset, just like we're talking about this abundance of energy. It's just a beautiful complement to life, really. And
Yeah.
knowing how to channel that, harness that, and put that in place is like so important.
So I know there's somebody that's listening and say, but you don't know my child. No, I could have been your child. Okay. And as I look back, I remember I had a crazy teacher, and the first couple days of school, she was really crazy. We can talk about that another time. She was just out, absolute. She gave crazy a new. Anyway, that's not our discussion today. Okay.
I think everybody has one of those crazy teachers,
And
honestly.
she wanted to put a bell around my neck. And I'm like, why would you do that? She said, so I can see where you're going. I said, well, you can't see where I'm going. And I'm in the fourth grade, right? And so I'm asking these questions, and I'm very naive to the experience, because when I was in the second grade, I had the most amazing principal, and I think I've shared this at the beginning, Mr. Wrigley, and he bought me a 2-year membership to the YMCA and said, enroll him in everything,
Yeah.
use up his energy,
Yeah.
and channel that. He took that asset and he channeled it. And it was the greatest achievement for me. It's the greatest gift that I could have received, because the achievements that came out of that were amazing. So it is that he saw
Yeah.
how important channeling that energy, exercising. And you don't have to do like a 5-hour workout. It's not
Yeah.
that complicated.
No.
And, in the body, we have multi neurotransmitters, and serotonin, the happy, feel good, don't worry, be happy
Mhm. Mhm.
transmitter. It's in
Yeah.
our body.
Yeah.
And people will go on a run and they'll say that they got this second wind. Well, what's happened actually is there's an amino acid called tryptophan,
Yeah.
and it's a small molecule, and it doesn't work well with the other larger molecules that the muscles
Yeah.
absorb.
Mhm.
So it can't, the muscles will absorb it, and then it can't get to the brain. And so it's a very small molecule. So when you exercise, that tryptophan actually makes it past the blood brain barrier and into the brain, creating more dopamine, more serotonin, more neurotransmitters, because now it's not fighting. So just that little tidbit right there would make me want to take my child that's got ADD, and I did
Yeah.
when my son was growing, and we'd go and run. We'd go and he was a great runner. He was a great skateboarder, he's just an all around great athlete and a leader in it. And so when I can appreciate that, and I didn't even know then, I,
Yeah.
I wish I would have had this information then, but I didn't even know then. So that's one element that you can implement, exercising, and the kids are sitting in a desk
Yeah.
all but what, 2 minutes. I don't know what they do in the first through fifth grade, if they switch classes much, when
Yeah.
that kind of takes place. But if you make a kid with energy sit in a chair for 6 hours, because let's say they go to lunch,
Yeah.
um, now you've got all this bottled up energy and it's like ready to explode. I,
Right.
I have a great idea for schools. Honestly, I really do. I say, take 2 minutes between every new lesson and have the kids jump up and down. Just jump up and down. I would bet my 2000 Honda they would have greater grades, better grades. They would have better creativity, and their imagination would continue to run off the charts. I bet. I'm going to put that out there.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing, even as adults, I started this exercise program earlier this year, but my first challenge was to get up every hour and move for 5 to 10 minutes. When I first started that was super challenging, but that's something that should have been integrated into my life a long time ago. But again, we moved from the classroom into the working sector, whether it's at home or in the office, where we're doing a lot of sitting for a lot of our jobs that we do nowadays. So even instilling that habit, that behavior, that routine into your life to get up and do the exercise 5 to 10 minutes every hour, or to do some of these things that you're going to talk about in a few minutes, is huge in implementing that in your lifestyle to make sure that follows you the rest of your life. So huge. And again, it's not just for those with ADD, although I think that impacts the most. But it's for the rest of us too, just for healthy living overall,
Yeah.
mental capacity, physical capacity, such a huge lifestyle behavior trait that needs to dominate all of our lives.
Yeah. If you find yourself with a child or a spouse
Yeah.
or a partner
Yeah.
that is oppositional, that seems to get frustrated often, as you watch that,
Yeah.
observe that and say, when you start to notice those things where they're starting to get a little bit frustrated or a little oppositional or they're argumentative, say, you know what? I think it'd be a good time to go for a walk. Now, this is a way to diffuse it, because now what you're doing is you're activating what's going on in the body, and going for that walk, and walk like you're in a rush, like you're late. Like
Yeah.
if you had 1 minute to get your airplane and you've got an entire terminal to go across. So walk like that
Yeah.
4 or 5 times a week.
Yeah, I love that. I love that recommendation, because what you're going to see is after that walk, everything's reset. I love that recommendation. And that
And
is another thing people need to remember to do. Absolutely.
and why is that? Why does that happen?
And why does that happen? Because the dopamine is getting into your system, which is allowing that to be absorbed into your
Yeah,
brain, making that dopamine,
yeah,
tryptophan.
yeah. It's that small molecule tryptophan that
Yeah.
gets into the brain, in the frontal cortex, okay? And now it's circulating brain, and the brain is going, ah,
Yeah.
thank you. Thank you for that.
And
So
you can
when
see that,
yeah,
really. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So exciting.
So when you see people getting lethargic and dopey and depressed and mopey, nah, that's a time to get up and go for a walk. Not listen to your body that says, "Oh, I just need to lay here." And you've laid there every day this week.
Yeah.
It's that constant battle of your brain is saying, no, I need something different. And it's not the ice cream, it's not the cookies, it's not the candy,
Yeah.
it's not sitting in front and getting a Netflix binge in. It
Yeah.
is moving the blood and the body to get that energy, because it's going to channel some way and it's going to explode. And
Yeah.
you're going to wake up one day and you're going to go, wow, what happened? Where did this come from? Well, somebody with ADD or ADHD, they've got an abundance of that blockage. And if they're not getting that movement, then it challenges. And it's not their own fault. It's just the way that they're wired. And as we understand how somebody's wired, we can appreciate it. For myself, I didn't understand it because I didn't know what it was. I
Yeah.
just knew that I had more energy and I could go. And I'd say, I can make that Energizer bunny fall asleep. I can, because
Yeah.
I can outlast that.
Right.
And it's appreciating that, and not just wearing it as a badge of honor, but wearing it as an identity. It's just who I am. It's like, I have, well, it used to be dark hair. But when I was young, I just appreciated that.
Right.
And so it's learning to, so when we do that, the neurotransmitter that Ritalin works to help focus, when we increase the blood going into the brain through that small amino acid tryptophan, it's a building block for serotonin.
Yeah.
And it doesn't, like I said, it doesn't play well with the bigger amino acids, and the bigger amino acids get absorbed into the muscle. And if the bigger amino acids aren't there, it's going to suck up that tryptophan.
Yeah.
So foods that you can get tryptophan in include chicken, eggs, fish, peanuts. I'm not a big peanut fan. I actually can't eat nuts just because I have an allergy to them, but pumpkin seeds and sesame seeds, milk.
Yeah. Must be turkey too, because that's
Yes.
always the big Thanksgiving thing is I'm going to eat this, has tryptophan. I'm going to be able to rest after this, right?
Exactly. So that's going to be the house word, tryptophan. Yeah, it's going to be, you just learn a new word and you go,
Right.
yeah, I'm going to get some tryptophan today. And
Right.
people look at you like, what are you talking about? And I'm
Right.
going to feed my brain.
Right.
One of the things that I also recommend is like we talked about, walking. Go out and get a walk for
Yeah.
45 minutes.
Yeah.
I recently bought one of these under the desk treadmills.
Oh, how's that going?
I
I've
love
looked
it.
at several of those. Yeah. Tell us about it.
I love it. It takes a little bit to get used to because it's shorter. It's
Yeah.
only It's
Yeah.
only about 3.5 feet. Now I know they make bigger ones, but
Yeah.
there was this deal on TikTok Shop, and I don't do TikTok Shop at all. And I was like really kind of nervous about it. And I just kept seeing these, and I kept seeing them, and
I've seen.
so I decided I'm going to get one.
Yeah.
Walking an hour is easy, and I put it at 2.3 miles per hour,
Yeah.
between 2.3 and 2.5.
Yeah.
I walk an hour, and I can get a little over a mile, and it says that I'm burning 250 calories, but I don't know how it knows,
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but it is, and it's easy.
Yeah.
I don't have to worry about going out and walking
Yeah.
in when it's humid and then coming back here.
Right.
But
Right.
between my meetings, I would generally go out for a walk
Yeah.
and then turn around and come back. And the neighbors think that I might be crazy because I forgot something. Like I got to the corner and I turn around and come back. I do it all the time. Um,
Right.
that's my ADD kicking in. Okay. Um, in any event, so it's amazing. And, it was between that and a rebounder.
Yeah.
And I really want to get the rebounder because it does such a good thing for your lymphatic system, but we're not talking about that, Stan. We're
Right.
talking about ADD and exercise. So when we understand that exercise balances our hormones, okay,
Yeah.
and it helps balance your sugar, which is really critical, especially when you're doing weight training.
Yeah. Right.
So daily exercise, and you don't have to do like a high intensity for
Right.
hours on end.
Nope.
Just doing some daily exercise every
Huge.
day.
Yeah, and I want to comment just on what you said earlier about you have to tell yourself to do it. So I had been not feeling well for the last week and a half, 2 weeks. And so before that I was exercising every day, got into the mood, had gotten sick, and that kind of fell by the wayside. And today is like one of the first days I'm feeling better. So now I'm having to tell myself I could just sit here all day, right? And fall back into the old pattern of not doing anything. But I have to tell myself, no, Today we're going to exercise. We're going to get started back on the routine. So it is like you've got to tell yourself and make yourself do it. Don't think this is something, at least for me anyhow, that you're just going to want to get up and naturally do every day. Eventually, when you get into the routine, but if you slip out of that, again, making yourself, telling yourself, no, this is what we do. This is the importance of this, reminding yourself how many benefits outweigh just not doing the exercise, health and mood and just stability overall, feeling strong.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. That's the neat thing about having that underneath my desk. So I have a rising desk, and right now I'm sitting in a chair so that
Yeah,
because the camera doesn't follow me, I don't have one of those yet. And I just move this stuff over, and then I can pull that out. I'm here in front of my computer. I can go through emails, or I can go through any listening podcasts or anything like that, and then prepare myself before a meeting. And
yeah,
just even 10 minutes of movement changes everything. We become so sedentary.
yeah,
And I want to say that, um, you know, and maybe I'll bring it up next week, but I did a study last week, and I had a statistic, and I don't have it in front of me, but the amount of ADD diagnosis that took place between 2003 and 2007, it was like a $6 billion industry increase in pharmaceuticals. So
wow,
I'm saying, why suppress, you know, if you have a vehicle and it has 6 gears in it and you drive in first gear,
wow, yeah,
you're going to blow that engine up.
yeah,
It's just impossible not to. If you
yeah,
get anywhere out of your driveway, you're going to blow that engine up.
hmm,
This is what someone with the chemical creation for the hyperactivity actually is like. If you tell us to sit down and not move, you're making us drive on the highway in first gear,
yeah,
and we're trying to keep up with those that have chemicals that are differently
yeah,
appropriated.
right,
Okay.
yeah,
Then you're taking the uniqueness out of an individual. And I believe that that's the entire idea behind appreciating who we are.
yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. That speaks to that. I love that analogy of just trying to funnel down, to hold back. And understanding that is not what you've been designed to do. Again, because I see your energy as a strength, as an asset. And so being able to harness that and make it move forward in appropriate way for what you've been called to do. Now, all of us have been called to different things. And I see a lot of folks with ADD are very action oriented. They have very physical jobs. They work in a place that requires that amount of energy. So being able to understand that, to harness it, I think is huge. And I have to tell you, Mr. Wrigley, your principal, actually was so key in making that work for you, because we do have a lot of dropouts due to not being able to work, harness, facilitate the energy in children as they get up to those older grade levels, and they see, you know what, I'm just not going to do this anymore. I don't see the point of it.
Right.
You're wasting my time making me sit here all day. So, there's a big dropout rate as a result of that. So, learning to find that early in your child, to harness it, to make it guide their path versus stifling or making them try to, because it's not going to work. It isn't inbred. It's followed you your entire life, right?
Right.
So it's not like at 21, this is all going to go away. No, it doesn't. It stays with you. So learning how to rein that, make that work for you is like so key to helping you live your life successfully.
I recently heard an author say this, and it was like a mind blow. Um, he said, how many personality types are there? And Meyer-Briggs will tell you one thing, and
Yeah.
strength finders will tell you another thing. And he said there's 8 billion people on the planet.
Yeah.
There's 8 billion type of personality types.
That's right. That's
And
exactly right.
and it's just like I'm really just blown away. I had a conversation with a facility who treats mental
Yeah.
clients,
Yeah.
therapy, structural understanding, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
And we were at a business expo, and
Yeah.
I said, they had these little brain squishy things, and I was, that I'm just like, that's so cool. I got to
Yeah.
get one of those. He said, well, you can have one. I go, "Oh, really?" And so he said, do you want a second one? And I'm like, yeah, I'd love to have that. So
Uh-huh.
I'm going to show them to you.
This is show and tell day.
Okay, so this is show and tell day. So this is a little brain, okay? It's a little squishy, spongy brain
Yeah.
thing. And I thought that was so cool.
Yeah.
So I'm talking to them, and I go, well, it sounds like we do some similarities. Now I know what I'm leading into. And I said, did you know that there's 7 different types of ADD? They look at each other. There was 3 of them. So they took turns looking at each other. I said, yeah, there's 7 different types of ADD. So why are we trying to treat somebody
Yeah.
as one type?
Yeah.
And this is what my point of this is, that we have 30 students in a classroom. There's 30 different personality types.
Yeah.
They have 30 different types of energy, even though they have some similarities and some overlapping.
Yeah.
When I was a kid, we used to have recess in between classes.
Yeah.
And our grades were higher. Now you've taken recess out, you've taken art out, you've taken music out of the schools,
Yeah.
and you've taken the activity out. What is a kid to do?
Right.
So, yeah, exercise is great for cognitive improvements, emotional. There's emotional benefits.
Yeah.
It reduces oppositional uh, attitudes, and it increases their flexibility.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, and also I think you hit on something right there when you said they took away art and music, because I think those are other releases, so to speak, or things that so my husband, he listens to a lot of talk radio, but it's that constant talk that energizes his brain and kind of releases some of that. Same thing for music, maybe same thing for art. So also understanding those other dynamics that will, again, not just exercise, but brain release activities that will help just, again, harness, put some direction in the day to keep you going.
Exactly. And another thing, weight training.
Yeah.
Weight training twice a week. Okay, so weight training has also shown, and they've got studies that prove this, that reduce the effects of Alzheimer's, or
Wow.
could even keep it from taking place, because our body is releasing these hormones. And because when we're doing strength training, we're saying to the larger amino acids to come into those muscles. And
Yeah.
now, when we're eating the foods that have the tryptophan in it, now we're able to get that blood flow, that brain blood barrier, get to the brain and
Yeah.
get to the frontal cortex of our brain, and re-energize us and release those hormones, release those neurotransmitters. It changes. It's a life changer. It really is. And I don't know why we don't have more aerobics in retirement homes,
Yeah.
because I've been into them many, many, many times, and there's no such thing. Okay. They may have an optional class for some, but the majority of them are sitting in that room
Yep.
watching the Days of Our Lives.
Right.
Um, and, um,
Yeah. Fascinating.
and
Yeah.
and not moving anything, not learning anything, not developing anything. And then we wonder why we leave depressed because we're watching grandma or grandpa decline when they were so sharp, so smart, when they
Yeah.
were active. We've taken all that away.
Yeah. And that's a really good point that you brought up too. So I worked for when I was a teacher, I worked for a principal one time, and every 6 months he learned a new skill. Like I always saw him learning a new language. I saw him learning like taekwondo, all these different types of martial arts. Like he was a constant lifelong learner. And I really embraced that because I realized that that is what really motivated him and kept his spirits high because he was always learning something new. And I know before the show today, we were talking about making sourdough bread. It
Mhm.
can be something simple as that because it motivates you, it keeps you going. So, always having, you should set in your mind, I'm always going to try to learn something new, whether it's on a 6 month basis, 3 month basis, weekly basis, whatever that is. Try to keep that new and the motivation for learning something new in your life.
Exactly. And I want to say that there is no such thing as a failure. There's
Yeah.
an experience.
Yeah.
And it turned out the way that you want, or it didn't turn out the way that you want, but it's just an experience.
Yeah.
And as you learn new things,
Yeah.
you're making new neural connections. The more neural connections that we're making, there's a synopsis that takes place, and I don't know, there's 100 billion neurons, and they make 100 billion connections. So multiply, do the math. I'm not going to do that for you because that's not my strength today. But there is so much that we can do to channel the energy that we have, that not doing it is just waiting. It's a book waiting to open up inside of you.
Yeah. And again, I go back to my earlier point is you got to tell yourself to do it. You've got to make yourself do it. You're not just going to jump up out of the bed and say, blah. It really is being intentional about making these things happen, intentional about what your new thing is you're going to learn, intentional about your exercise routine, intentional about your lifting weights a couple of days a week. So it is a constant being mindful, being intentional to really improve yourself, to again live life stronger, with a bigger sense of purpose.
Now, did you say it was your husband that does the taekwondo and the karate and
No,
the,
that was the principal that I
it
worked
was a
with.
principle? Okay,
Yeah,
so the coordination exercises,
yeah,
okay,
yeah,
make a big difference.
yeah.
And table tennis, ping pong, I used to call it table tennis, for hand-eye coordination really engages the frontal cortex.
Wow.
It will make you smarter.
Yeah, wow. I love that. Yeah, that's funny. One time I worked with a group of doctors, and one of the doctors is we were having this day like tell us something you don't know about somebody. And one of our doctors, he was like the national ping pong champion in his country. He was from Nigeria, but the national ping pong champion. And he just talked about that exact same thing. He was a neuroscience doctor, but he talked about how important that was and how that kept his brain going motivated. So funny that you say that because I remember him and I would have never guessed that. Again, neuroscience doctor, but yet also ping pong champion in the country. But there is a huge connection there.
Yeah. Word searches, puzzles, games that challenge your brain. And there's a bunch of free ones on your app store. So anybody with a smartphone, and I know there's a few people, I have a few friends that still have a flip phone, and it's like, man, he says my text won't come through because you put an emoji on there, and so I don't know what it is. And but most people have a smartphone or they have a computer.
Hmm.
Just go to a free app and get these little puzzle games that you can put, timed games. And if you don't get the score that you wanted, play the next game,
Right. Now, I'm
right?
a big game player. This is an easy one for me. I've always been that way. Our family played a lot of games growing up. I tried to play a lot of games with the kids. I still do a lot of games. Our family's outings are always like centered around canasta and who's going to win the next game. So we are very competitive with games. So that's an easy one for me. But you're right; it keeps your brain going.
Exactly. Exactly.
Absolutely.
So weight training, we talked about weight training, we talked about burst training, and you can do this for 4 or 5 minute, 1 minute burst where you are walking like normal, and then do 1 minute where you're just almost in a run, like a
Yeah,
super fast walk. And
yeah,
it will boost your metabolism and it will increase your focus.
yeah, I love that. I love that. That's like if you didn't take anything else away from today's meeting, take that because that's huge and that's a big changer. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So who in here cannot walk 20 minutes a day? Nobody.
Right,
Nobody.
right.
And um, it's we create our own limitations, and once we demystify this and we say, wow, I just have extra energy, now how can I harness it? I'm
Yeah.
not a Volkswagen with 100 horsepower, I'm the Ferrari with 353 horsepower. And how can I get on the Autobahn? How can I create my own Autobahn? Twice a week,
Yeah.
do some weight training. It doesn't have to be a killer weights. Just do some weight training, get
Yeah.
some resistance in, and make sure you're doing them right. Make sure you're doing it in the correct form. That's the key. Table tennis and staying motivated, not just with our physical health, but understanding and appreciating that our movement creates our cognitive function, and it also creates a well-being that there's it's simple, it's free, we can do it with no cost, no prescription, it doesn't come in a bottle.
Yeah.
And put triggers around your house, put your tennis shoes
Yeah.
beside your workstation, and
Yeah.
every time you look down you go, oh, every time I look down I go, oh, I got to put those tennis shoes on
Yeah.
and go for a walk.
Yeah, yeah. And my challenge with walking, the thing that helped me the most was honestly my watch, probably not a totally good access to wear, but just that constant like competition with myself to get the 6,000, 7,000 steps in every day. So make it competitive, make it a game for yourself. And then
Yes.
my final word for today is really find something you want to learn and do it, whether it's playing bridge, whether it's going and learning how to knit. Just find something today that you want to go learn that you never had a chance to do. I need to do that myself. I did a little pottery work early on in life, but I've been wanting to go and do more pottery making. So I need to, rather than put it off, you need to make a decision. I need to make a decision. You know what? I'm going to go and do this because I feel like that's something I would enjoy and learn. And it will just help me again to continue to learn and grow. So, what's your one thing today? You're going to make a decision and you're going to say, I'm going to go do this as the new thing to do.
That's awesome. that's
Yeah.
that's a
And
great way.
yours is making sourdough bread, right?
Yes, yes. Mine is going to be making sourdough bread, and so I will be bringing a report next
Okay.
week when we meet again, how the sourdough bread thing went. So I've got some work to do, and I love being in the kitchen anyway. So, um, yeah, I'm excited about that, and yeah,
Yeah, and it's exciting. It keeps life exciting, right? And then you have another conversation piece that you can talk to someone about. So
exactly,
exciting meeting new people, doing new things all the time is great. Be
exactly.
motivated today. Yeah.
All right. Well, love your brain. Eat what your brain loves. Eat the food that you love that loves you back.
Yeah.
And we'll see you next week. In between, go out and get some exercise and have an outstanding week.